Hey, Slater Crusaders, America's the greatest country in the world. Thanks for being here. Welcome to our special, The Attack on Masculinity. Camille Paglia, she said, a woman simply is, but a man must become. A woman is, a man must become. 1960, JFK wrote an article in Sports Illustrated called The Soft American. It's a wonderful article. I recommend you read the whole thing. He says, for the Greeks prized physical excellence and athletic skills among man's greatest goals and among the prime foundations of a vigorous state. Thus, the same civilizations which produced some of the highest achievements in philosophy and drama, government, and art also gave us a belief in the importance of physical soundness, which has become a part of Western tradition. 1960, JFK was very concerned about the state of our physical health, particularly in young boys. Today, 40% of men 20 to 39 are obese. Not overweight, obese. Many people think that the health of people and the health of a civilization and everything that means are not related, but they are directly related. The point from JFK was that virtue and masculinity is physical. We're going to talk to Kevin Sorbo, who played Hercules, coming up in a little bit, right? So there's like the physicalness of masculinity, but there's also the intellectual and moral aspect as well. And a thriving society would have strong people, strong minds, and strong morals. And to go back to JFK's point, I think we are soft on all three. Not going to spend too much time in this opening segment or in the show today blaming feminism for all this, because that's too obvious. The feminist movement said that a woman needs a man like a fish needs a bicycle. That's to say, not at all. That is so patently absurd. Where are all the female bricklayers and female truckers and female welders and firefighters? You get the point. But here's the thing. You get all that. Women can't be dads. Women can't be dads. This is the opening sentence, the real life opening sentence of a Baltimore local news story. All right, here's how the story started out. As another school year begins, a Baltimore mom is not scheduling after-school activities for her 14-year-old daughter. Instead, she's scheduling court appearances and trying to figure out what, if anything, will get her daughter to stop stealing cars and follow the rules of her home detention. That's the opening. There it is, right? That's the news report there. To be clear, the 14-year-old girl, she's not just stealing cars. When you read the whole article, she's carjacking. Okay, that means someone's in the car and she's ripping them out of the car and then stealing the car that's already on. Now, you read the whole story, and this happens all the time. I get one of these every day. You read the story, and what's missing from the story? It's missing from all these stories. Where's Dad? That reporter wasn't interviewing Dad because there is no Dad. If there was a present dad, then the girl wouldn't be carjacking people across Baltimore. And we wouldn't be asking questions, how can we keep her inside? And what jail should we be sending her to? You name the social ill, you can trace it back to a lack of a dad. Try it. Name one. Name a social problem in our country today, and you can trace it back to lack of dads. Now, just to show the opposite, here's a video of someone who will not go around carjacking anyone.
Set the hook! God, dude. Stay on him, son. Come on. Hold up. Let me tighten this up. Oh gosh, that's a good one. Come on. Stay on him. Stay on him, son. Come on. Stay on him. Come on. Get him up. Really. Come on. Crank back. Don't let him pull you in. Come on. Real, son. That's a big one. Come on. Stay on him. Don't let him jump. Come on, son. Yeah! Let's freaking go, boy! Let's go! Come on, boy! Yeah!
Go, man!
Let's go, kid! Let's go, buddy!
That boy will not carjack anyone ever. It's a dad and his son, maybe grandpa, fishing. That kid will be fine. That kid will be fine in life. Or this kid.
Up to third. Up, over, third. Now gas. Even transition. Ready? There you go. Go, go, go. Yay! You got it, boy. Keep going. That's what I'm talking about right there. Keep going.
I love you, Dad.
Love you, buddy. Keep going. Keep going. So you got a car to your left.
Oh, come on. That kid will always know where to go for advice in life. He'll always know where to go when he can't control his emotions, when he doesn't know what to do, when he's in a tough situation, he's going to know where to go. And not just advice on how to drive stick. He'll make mistakes. Everyone does. But he'll have a dad there to provide the direction and the discipline and to bring order back to his son's life. Not all dads are perfect. We all make mistakes, goodness. But if you want to keep your boys out of prison and you want to keep your daughters off the pole, or today's expression would be if you want to keep your daughters off OnlyFans. Actually, if you want to keep your sons and daughters off OnlyFans, be a dad. And if you see someone in prison, and if you see a girl who does the OnlyFans, you can be certain that there was a deadbeat dad in the past. And I'll leave an asterisk for, I brought this up on my radio show once, and people called in, they're like, oh, well, what if the mom took the kids away from the dad, and the dad lost custody because of the biased courts, and maybe the dad didn't even know that the girl was pregnant, so the dad, yeah, okay, sure, fine. There's always exemptions. But the vast majority, the norm, is men abandoning their God-given role as provider and protector. Now, I want to be clear too. There are deadbeat dads who are still present. Like they're in the home, but no one's home. You with me? You know what I mean? They're in the home, but like no one, hello, earth to dad, like no one, they're not there. They're there, but they're not there. The dad may be present, but is paying more attention to a made-up, make-believe football team that he thinks he's the coach of than his actual real-life flesh and blood children that live inside that same home. 1964, you've heard of the Moynihan Report. He was the Assistant Secretary of Labor in LBJ's administration. Daniel Patrick Moynihan was his name. His own father left him when he was 10, so he understood the importance of families, and that is the bedrock of civilization. So in 1963, he wrote a report about the growing divorce rates in America. So in 1963, 25% of black children and 5% of white children lived in homes with unmarried mothers. 25% of black, 5% white. The most recent numbers I could find, so it's way worse than this, is 2011. 72% of black children are born to unmarried. 72. He was worried when it was 25%. Now it's 72. And even for white families, white babies, it's 30%. Right? So he was worried when the black illegitimate rate was 25. How many men have given up? How many men, or maybe how many men have no good model of what it even means to be a good father at this point, or what it means to be truly masculine. And if you don't know what it means to be truly masculine, which is what we're going to talk about in the show today, then it's easy to take the attack of it and be like, oh, masculinity is bad or it's toxic. So we're going to describe what it is, create that vision, create that goal, define our terms. So we're going to explore today. The word virtue, to me, masculinity and virtue are the same word. It's the same concept. When I think masculinity, I think virtue. Virtue comes from the Latin word for man. Vir, V-I-R, virtue means man in Latin. Masculinity is living a life of virtue. And our founding fathers knew this, right? The whole pursuit of happiness, life, liberty, pursuit of happiness, that didn't mean like fleeting emotional happiness. It meant the practice of virtue. Happiness to them, their understanding of happiness was that you can only get it when you live a virtuous life. So the pursuit of happiness to them really meant the practice of virtue. They knew that the only deep, lasting joy that you can get in life comes from a life of virtue, courage, loyalty, hard work, resilience, personal responsibility, self-reliance, sacrifice, all these great virtues that we never talk about. They used to be there's out there everywhere. All that was talked about in pop culture. Again, we're talking to Kevin Sorbo in a little bit, so we'll get the Hollywood perspective. Like all stories used to be around these principles, these virtues, and now they're not. So we have become morally weak. Goodness, we don't even have time to go into how intellectually pathetic we are. I just saw a poll the other day. They asked 41,000 adults 10 basic US history questions. 6 was a passing grade. All right, so if you got 6, 7, 8, 9, or 10, then you pass. So 5 or less, do you know what percentage of people passed? What percent? You would think in the United States of America, you would think 10 basic questions like how many states are there? Like those kind of questions. 36% passed. 36%? What? That's it. The rest of you should be deported. What are you doing here when you don't know the most basic things? So anyway, moral softness, intellectual softness, but then back to JFK's point, also the physical softness. Have you ever seen this video? This is La Serra High School. This was a gym class. Okay? This was a gym, a high school. Look at those guys. They're almost as jacked as I am. Look, they're all like Hercules. What is that? That was a high school gym class. Now, La Serra was known for being exceptional in their high school gym class. But like, even if that's above par, par was still like, those are high schools. Those guys are like jacked CrossFitters. We used to have strong boys. These high schools were stronger than grown adults today. Who could do that? What adult could? And then, of course, compare those high schoolers to your average high schoolers today. But again, here's my point. It's not just physical excellence. It's who you are as a man. So what is masculinity? Let's end this segment with a definition. What is masculinity? I'm going to quote Brett McKay. He said, masculinity is striving for excellence and virtue in all areas of your life, fulfilling your potential as a man, and being the absolute best brother, friend, husband, father, and citizen you can be. Oh, that's so good. Brother, friend, husband, father, citizen. Masculinity is excellence. Masculinity is virtue and excellence. And we will not, cannot save this country. It will be impossible to save this country until we restore virtue in our own lives first. We'll explore more of this coming up next. I'm grateful you're here. Mike Slater on the First TV, the Attack on Masculinity. Spread the word. Hey, Study Crusaders, welcome back to our special, The Attack on Christianity. Let's bring it back to God's Word. Let's bring it back to the Scripture. Let's bring it back to some ancient wisdom here. Brian Sauve is here. He's the founder of New Christendom Press, and he serves as the pastor of Refuge Church in Utah. He's the co-host of the Haunted Cosmos podcast, among many other projects going on all the time. Brian, how are you, sir?
I'm doing well. How are you doing today?
Really grateful you're here, and I'm excited for your insight here. Let's just start from the very beginning. How do you define masculinity?
Well, that's really the question, isn't it? I think lately a lot of the vectors of attack have come right here in getting the question wrong, in basically saying that men are, to use my friend Michael Foster's words, defective women. That they need to get in touch with their feminine side. Their strength is toxic. Well, contra all of that, the scriptures are clear. They say man is the glory of God. Man was designed to go tame wildernesses, take dominion, win a worthy woman, have children, see his children's children, worshiping the Lord, press faith and resources downstream in his generations, make civilizations. So, I mean, without men, you don't have any of those things because God designed it that way. He made men to be his glory, his vicegerent, his representative on earth. So a lot more we could say, but I think that's a good start.
Great. That's beautiful. What are boys told a man is today?
I think there are a few deeply flawed answers that young boys are given. They're given an evolutionary answer, that they are just a certain collection of atoms and molecules floating around. They are not the descendants of great men. They're not the image bearers of God. They're just, second cousin of chimpanzees. I think that they're told that they are, again, defective women, that they need to sit down, be still, take all of their strength and kind of press it down. Instead of spurring them further up and further in and saying, young men, go win glory. You were made for this. I think instead of that, they're told, hey, you're actually kind of a dangerous thing, and we really need you to kind of sit back, be quiet, and let us round off all of your edges.
Oh, those are so good. And those are such terrible stories to tell. So what I think is fascinating, if the default, I think maybe we got comfortable, and this is maybe the best case analysis, is we got comfortable with, okay, I'll tell you this. We started off with Camille Paglia. Camille Paglia has the quote that a woman is, but a man has to become. And I think we just stopped telling stories thinking that a boy will just one day become a man. And that's sort of the end of it. And we don't have to like actively, purposefully, with intention, work to raise and train a boy to be a man. So we've fallen away, right? So first of all, do you agree with that analysis so far?
Yeah, I do. And, I would add in something Leon Podol's wrote. And he talked about how young women, especially in spending a lot of time with their mom in the household, they have a model right in front of them. They're, hey, become like your mother. But a young man, if you put him in that environment and then put him in, say, a public school with 75% female teachers and deeply anti-male sort of default, that man has to at some point reject the model of becoming a woman. And he has to say, I have to leave that world of women and go and pursue masculinity. He has to have a father. But then we take fathers out of the home in huge, huge numbers. And so many young men are growing up, they don't know how to become a man. They have no model of a man. They're being handed a faulty definition of a man. So yeah, absolutely. I think that's profoundly important to understand in this conversation.
So I brought in virtue in the first segment, which is good, but give us some scriptural truth as to what boys and men, because I tend to focus on boys a lot so far on this special, but it's men too, right? Adults are getting the wrong message. What are some of these virtues, these biblical virtues that we should be focusing on instead as men?
I tend to think in 5 categories or aspects of masculinity that I didn't come up with these. These are from Bill Mauser. The late Bill Mauser actually recently passed away. He argued that Scripture presents that 5 aspects of godly masculinity. That men ought to be lords who rule their own spirit and then go and rule well in the name of Christ. Husbandmen or shepherds who shepherd well like Christ, the good shepherd. Saviors or redeemers or deliverers who put themselves between danger and their people and give their strength away in the service of good. Sages, men of wisdom who deeply pursue goodness, truth, and beauty and knowledge. And then also glory bearers who are, as Paul says in 1 Corinthians 11, men are the glory of God. So go out and be a glory. That's how I teach men in my church, my own sons, to go and pursue masculinity. Hey, go be lords, husbandmen, saviors, sages, and glory bearers, and aim for competency in all of those categories.
Yes. Oh, I hope that every man listening now is like, yes, like it feels so good to have that vision cast. Be like, yes, boom, that's it. Finally, I have a definition of where I want to go, as opposed to just wandering aimlessly. No matter what age you are, you're perfect. That's what I need. Give us like 1 or 2 of those. We got time. We're in no rush here. This is why we're here. Give us a couple of these that you think are lacking, and help us explain how you teach them to your kids.
Yeah, I think lordship is one of the most important ones. That you even say that out in public. Go on Twitter and say men are supposed to be lords and see what happens. I mean, you'll end up going viral. Not positively, most likely. But to be a lord means to rule well. So the Proverbs say a man who doesn't rule his own spirit is like a city broken into and left without walls. Okay, so rule your own spirit. Don't be mastered by your emotions. Don't be so easy to push over that anybody can come and goad you and you're just like, you'll get into any fight that someone wants to pick with you.
Yes.
Rule yourself well. And then bring that order out into the vocations of your life. As a young man in your schooling and training or physical mastery, as you come into marriage, rule in your home well, not as a tyrant, but as a godly Lord. Go and, make sure that the ordering of your house is going to prosper your wife and prosper your children. Go into your business and bring this kind of responsibility taking lordship into that vocational world. I mean, you can apply this in any aspect of a man's vocation. And if he's thinking, okay, I'm supposed to bring rule here under the rule of Christ into the world, that will powerfully transform the way that a man, a young man, an old man even, thinks about his duties in the world. Does that make sense?
100%. Not only thinks about how, but as you're talking, I'm assessing the order or chaos that exists in my home that I am responsible for. Because I used to think order, I heard order, and I liked that, like a man brings order. Young, and I don't know if this is the best archetypes, but he has the king, the warrior, magician, king, lover archetypes. And it's good. It's not Christian based though. So it's close, but not there. And he talks about how the king brings order. And I like that. That's good. But I like lordship better. What was the scripture that you used for that? And what's the difference? And yes, you mentioned Lord brings order, but why is Lord better then? Why is that framework and thinking better than just king who brings order?
Yeah, I think a Lord, first of all, is capital L Lord, is the Lord Jesus Christ. He is the omnicompetent God-man. He is man perfected. He's more than that, but he is the perfect image of man to which every man is to be conformed, right? But when we look at the telos, or the creational realities undergirding man's design, we find right away in Genesis 1 and 2 that man goes out and he names the animals. He even names his wife. He's given a task to take dominion and to rule over creation, to bring it order, this lordship of this lordly order. I love 1 Peter 3. It's so politically incorrect, but Peter praises Abraham's wife Sarah for calling him Lord. Says, and then says, hey, women, go be like this to your husband, who like Abraham's wife, who called him Lord. So this may sound foreign to the modern ear, but all it means is that a man rules well, he rules his own spirit, and that he knows how to be in authority and under authority. And if he can do those things well, there's safety for a wife, for children, and for society at large when a man rules in this way.
Of course. So good. What's the scripture used about the walls?
Oh, I think, you know what? It's
like
in
a town without
Proverbs.
walls.
Yeah, a city without walls. I think I want to say Proverbs 25, but man, now I'm failing as a pastor in giving.
No, it's okay. You paraphrased it well before. No, even the paraphrase was great, right? So you're a city under attack without walls. You're easily moved, easily manipulated, easily
Proverbs
influenced.
28. That's what it was.
There you go. Done.
There you go.
Beautiful. All right, we got like 2 more minutes. Give me one more category of the 5 you mentioned.
Yeah, I think sage is one that is neglected because often men tend to reject wisdom and learning because they're fed it in a feminine mode so often. Go to this school with a female teacher where girls excel because it's mainly sitting still, and there's a lot of anti-masculine sort of flavor to all of that. But men need to hear that you were made to go and pursue wisdom. I think the best proof from scripture of this is that the book of Proverbs, which is a wisdom book, it was written first as a father to his sons to instruct them in wisdom so that they could go out like their father, who was a king, and rule well. That's the occasion of the book of Proverbs. So here we have the biggest book of wisdom, and it's directed to, obviously, young ladies and women can take much from the Proverbs as well, but it's directed right into the heart of young men. So I think men need to be thinking, writing, being rigorous, being men of ideas, and being captivated by great ideas and by truth, and just relentlessly, courageously pursue truth in the light of reason before God, and not be intellectually lazy or reject the sage aspect of learning or of life just because schooling is so often such a feminine environment.
I got to ask this. So this is our first year homeschooling. We have a 6-year-old boy and a 5-year-old girl and a 3-year-old boy and a 10-month-old boy. And we're homeschooling. And I know every kid always asks this question. And our kids just asked it the other day. Why do I have to know this? And I don't think they're asking, like, am I going to be an architect one day and I need to know trigonometry? But like, that's not it. It's more than that. It's like, why do I need to know things? Why do I need to learn? What's like your answer to that? Your big picture answer about why God gave us a brain and we're supposed to love him with all of our heart, soul, mind, strength, etc. What does that mean to you? How do you answer that?
Well, Proverbs 25:2 says that it's the glory of God to conceal a thing, and it's the glory of kings to search a thing out. So God is hidden as the architect of reality. He's hidden all these mysteries, from philosophical mysteries to engineering mysteries. And the task of men is to go out like glorious kings and search those things out and find them. So I tell my sons, hey, interesting people are interested people, and uninterested people are boring people. And you don't want to be a boring person. You want to have the glory of kings, right, son? So do your math. Go and find the mysteries that God has hidden in the equations, because they're there and they're beautiful and they're glorious.
Yeah, tremendous. Brian Sauve, founder of New Christendom Press. Where can people read, learn, listen more about you and everything you're doing, Brian?
Well, I'm very active on formerly twitter.com, I guess X, whatever it is now, at Brian_Sauve, Sauve. And you can find all of our links there, music, podcasts, and a lot more. But that's a good hub to start.
That's great. Brian, please keep it all up. If I can encourage you, please keep up everything you're doing.
Well, thank you
have
so
the
much.
Answers. Thank you, sir.
Thank you. It's an honor to be here.
Brian Sauve. It's spelled Sauve on the Twitter. Kevin Sorbo, Hercules, coming up next. Spread the word. Hey, welcome back to our special, The Attack on Masculinity. And so much of the attack on masculinity has come from a lot of different fronts, but one of them is Hollywood, which is pop culture, for decades now. I mean, just a million examples, but look how Ken in the Barbie movie, $1 billion movie, look how Ken was portrayed as a representative of men. Compare Ken to Hercules. Kevin Sorbo is here, actor, producer, director, author of the new book, The Test of Lionhood. Mr. Sorbo, how are you, sir?
I'm great. Thanks for having me on. I appreciate it. But yeah, we do got a little battle on our hand. This book is a good example of where the road of any kid needs to go.
Yeah. Well, let's talk about that. Let's talk about the root of this. Why do stories matter? And what stories are we telling? We'll start with our young boys.
Well, if you look what schools are doing right now, I mean, you've seen all this attack on school boards, and they're bringing up these books that they're making these kids read in 3rd, 4th, and 5th grade. It's absolutely insane. I mean, these over-sexualized, crazy books and promoting different things that I would think the vast majority of parents, if they really paid attention, and more are, thank God, they're finally waking up. I joined the Brave Books, people at bravebooks.com. Please go check that out. They came to me because I do a lot of speaking events, and I say, I'm tired of this silent majority stuff that's going around, because if there's such a silent majority out there and they're so sick and tired of what's going on in the world, then they need to speak up more. They do each year, but it's very slow. We need a tidal wave of people to become lions instead of these sheep that are out there. And this book really came on the heels of me talking about waking up the lions. So they approached me, and The Test of Lionhood is a wonderful children's book. Brave Books does like books for 4 to 12-year-olds. And it's not bashing on any group whatsoever, but it's about letting boys be boys. And it's a story about a lion cub named Lucas, and he goes out into the woods with his 2 younger siblings, his sisters. One gets cut by a very, very dangerous plant that you're going to die very quickly if you don't get the antidote for it. He realizes he doesn't have time to go back to his mom and dad. He knows his dad taught him the antidote is up on a mountain, so he's got to climb this mountain by himself. He's got to get past his fears. He's got to go over these obstacles. He's got to find a way to become a man in such a young boy's body. But he ends up finding the flower and saving his little sister. And this book is just really about letting boys be boys and really let girls be girls. Let them grow up and let them enjoy life until we decide, what we want them to be, and we're about this pronouns and all this other crap that's going on out there. So this book is really just a wonderful book about finding your way down the road to hopefully be a strong man when you grow up and be a strong provider and safety person for your family.
It's great. Okay, so when a young boy reads this book, what virtue do you want them to learn and to build inside of them that can turn them into a man one day?
Bravery. Stop letting fear. Government of every level, Hollywood, they do the same thing. They use fear as a weapon to control our lives. I mean, Andrew Breitbart said himself that, the culture runs downstream. Politics run downstream from culture. Who runs the culture? Hollywood does. Walt Disney said back in the 1950s, movies and television are going to influence our youth. Well, I think Walt's pretty spot on, and he's spinning in his grave right now, seeing what Disney's doing with his name brand, because Disney's about to lose over $1 billion this year. And if I was a stockholder, I don't think it'd be the messaging they're putting out is just making. You brought up the Barbie movie. Ryan Gosling, one of my spin-off series on Hercules was Young Hercules, and Ryan Gosling played me as a teenager when he was 20 years old. A lot of people don't remember that show because it only lasted seasons. But in this, I never saw the Barbie movie. I knew it'd be a big hit because generations have been played with Barbies. But my gosh, the whole idea is that women don't need men. Men are useless. Men are wimps. Women can just survive on their own without it. And it's just sad what we're doing to break up the family right now. We're head on that road. There's no question about it. And my book is really about keeping families together and keeping, the father has his part of the family. The wife has his part in the family. Mother and father together are very helpful in making kids grow up, boys or girls grow up, I think, in a stronger and positive way. And, you look at what Hollywood's done, most sitcoms, they always got the dad is always kind of stupid and dumpy, and then mom is hot, and the teenage kids, all they do is make fun of dad. So we've had 30 years of kids growing up realizing father's not that important to the family. We'll just make fun of dad. And it's quite sad because the brainwashing has been very effective.
Yeah, you watch any show on the Disney Channel for the last couple of decades, and that's been the formula, and it's pathetic. What lessons, what virtues were taught in the Hercules TV show?
Amazingly, being a mythological show, they had a lot of biblical moral values in there. And I can prove that by the thousands of letters I got over its 7-year run. We became the most watched TV show in the world by season 3 in 176 countries. And there was always bravery, and there was always moral messages in there. That was our 3rd-year spin-off show, Xena. And then, like I said, with the 5th year, it'd be great if you could pull up that shot of me with, that's Called the Conqueror. You're showing a movie I did at that time. But be funny if you guys find that picture of me posing with Ryan Gosling. But anyway, it was an amazing show that a lot of kids wrote to me saying, your character has shown me that I don't have to fight back, that I can talk my way out of things, that there doesn't have to be so much anger in my life. And I've had so many people say, I started working out because of your show. I became a stunt guy because of your show. So it shows, once again, how the impact you can have, for good or bad, through the world of movies and television.
Okay, so that's really interesting. So you would think Hercules strong, you'd think the lesson would be the toxic side, right? You got to be big and strong so you can fight your way out of problems. But you just said a lot of the emails you got were people watching you not use your physical strength to solve.
Because there's strength in that. There's certainly strength in that. I mean, to go in, I think every time Hercules got in a fight, he had no choice. And he was there to stop things and there to stop any sort of conflict. But a lot of times when you meet in the world we're living in today, there's a lot of jerks out there, and there's a lot of anger, and a lot of hate out there. And our government, unfortunately, loves to play up on that and continue that. And the divisiveness keeps happening. It's amazing that we can't even have freedom of speech anymore. It's usually to one side. It's subjected to one side, and that's to the right. The left is amazing to me that they have so much control over media, so much control over television, movies, articles in newspaper, news, all these things. I find it hard to believe that there's not some liberal writer out there behind closed doors going, what are we? It's crazy what we're doing right now and making the world the way we're making it. Because I think we're at a huge tipping point right now, and people need to wake up and fight back. And that, once again, that's why it's test the lionhood. We need to wake up the lions out there. It's time to wake up.
Yep, that's why. And I'm so grateful to you and other people out there who are finally filling that void that we used to have. It used to be the culture. It used to be normal. Father Knows Best was the name of the TV show. Like, this was just standard. And now this is not. Like, now this is countercultural, what you and others are finally starting doing. What's that lion within? Speak to that. You say you give speeches about that. What does that mean, the lion within?
No, I said me just wake up the lions. Quit being afraid. I get so many actors, producers, writers, anybody. I do a lot of independent movies. I'm a victim of the original cancel culture. About 11 years ago, my manager and agent said they couldn't work with me anymore because of my Christian values and conservative values. And I laughed at that, going, you're the industry that constantly streams for, they scream for tolerance, right? But we all know it, they're hypocrites, just like the people in DC are a bunch of hypocrites. Truth is kryptonite to these people. So I formed Sorbo Studios, sorbostudios.com. Please go to sorbostudios.com. I've got a number of movies that I've been part of through my studio, a number of other independent movies, because once Hollywood gave me the boot and blacklisted me, I love the industry. And I said, you know what? I'm going to keep doing movies that make a difference for families in a positive way instead of a negative way. And we're making an impact. And I'm not the only one doing it. There's a lot of other independent production companies out there that are putting out really good movies with solid messages. So my latest movie, Miracle in East Texas, will be out in October. Please go to sorbostudios.com. Sign up right now. Let's fill up those theaters. We only get one weekend out there. If we fill up those 750 screens across the country, we'll get more time there. So sorbostudios.com, and of course, bravebooks.com. Bravebooks.com will bring you to this page with not only my book, but books that Kirk Cameron's done, Bethany Hamilton's done. By the way, I was in her movie Life Story with Dennis Quaid and Helen Hunt. I was the guy that saves her life in the movie Soul Surfers. I know there's a lot of people that watch that movie.
Yeah. How has your Christianity influenced you, but also specifically this topic of masculinity, right? Because a lot of people think of Jesus as like baby Jesus, or just as like a weak lamb, or people think that the weak shall inherit the earth means the same as the weak shall inherit the earth. The meek and weak are not the same. They may rhyme, but they're exactly the opposite. How has that impacted you and this topic of masculinity?
Well, I've been a Christian my whole life. I don't claim to be a better person than anybody else or a perfect person. I'm certainly not a perfect Christian, but I don't think Jesus was all that meek and weak. I mean, that guy was pretty tough, flipping a bunch of those tables over when the people were using it as they gambling and everything else at the right at the footsteps of the synagogue there. So I think the guy was a pretty tough dude, and I think that the reason people followed him is because he obviously had the charisma and the speaking abilities. I mean, he told stories through parables, right? I mean, that's how he told stories about, moving on with your life. And he said, you will be attacked if you follow me. They will go after you. And he wasn't wrong about that. But I'm okay with that. Facebook took me down over 2 years ago for posting the truth about COVID. Everything I said about COVID now has been proven to be true. Why is not Facebook calling me back up with that little wussy Zuckerberg and saying, hey, we'll put we'll give you your 2 million followers back. But, once again, Zuckerberg and his trolls hate the truth. They absolutely hate it.
Jesus was the lamb, also the Lion of Judah. Your book,
yes.
The Test of Lionhood. And where can people buy the book?
Bravebooks.com is the best place to go. Bravebooks.com and sign up now. You get my book signed for free if you sign up to join the club. And then you get one book every month to read to your 4 to 12-year-olds. That's the age range that they're reaching out to, with positive stories.
That's all mine are in that range. Kevin Sorbo, great to talk to you, sir. Please keep it up.
Beautiful. Thank you so much. Thanks for your time.
Yeah, I forget who it was I talked to a while back, and I said same question, like, tell me the importance of stories. Why are stories so important? We have to understand. I think we've forgotten how important they are for so long. So we just allowed our kids in particular, but us too as adults, to just take in whatever they feed us. Whatever's available, whatever's on Netflix, whatever I scroll through, boom, click, I'll just listen to it. It's like, no, that's the stories you input into your brain and your heart and your soul change you. And I asked that to someone. I said, tell me about the importance of stories. And they said, well, Jesus told stories. Jesus told parables. That's always going to be more powerful in someone's soul than editorial. It always will be. Stories are always more powerful, and we're fed some really, really bad stories. So we need to actively go out of our way to find the good stories and to tell ourselves good stories and to tell our children good stories if we want them to be men and women of virtue. Coming up next, we'll wrap up here the Attack on Masculinity with the fuller description of one of the 7 deadly sins, I think overlooked, sloth. It's not laziness. That's not it. It's much more than that. We'll do that coming up next. The Attack on Masculinity right here on the First TV. Spread the word. Hey, Slater Crusaders, welcome back to our special, The Attack on Masculinity, on my podcast, Politics by Faith. We recently did a whole week on work and how work is not a curse. It's essential. We were created for work and to work. And God, we talked about good works and good work and excellence. And we did a little bit on the word sloth. People think of the word sloth meaning, it means laziness, like you're sleeping in late. being lazy or sloth. But sloth, there's much more to sloth than that. Sloth is one of the 7 deadly sins. It's got to be more than sleeping in late. Sloth is not caring about anything. Not caring about the things you should be caring about. Not caring about the things that you are the steward of. Not caring about the things that you have dominion over, the things you're responsible for. So you can have sloth in a lot of ways. Dorothy Sayers in the early 1900s. So the word in the Bible is acedia, A-C-E-D-I-A, acedia, that's sloth. She said it's the sin that believes in nothing, cares for nothing, seeks to know nothing, interferes with nothing, enjoys nothing, loves nothing, hates nothing, finds purpose in nothing, lives for nothing, and remains alive only because there's nothing it would die for. It's meaningless. Maybe the only thing they care about is your own pleasure and comfort and self. And that is no man. The man does not look for pleasure or comfort or self. The man is selfless. And young people today are only ever given heroes who are selfish. In reality, the truly masculine male, as John Eldridge put it, deep in his heart, every man longs for a battle to fight, an adventure to live, and a beauty to rescue. Are men today fighting any battles? Any real battles? I don't mean video games or gang turf wars, stupid stuff like that. Are men living in adventure, going on adventures, doing adventuresome things? Are men rescuing beauties? I don't mean conquering them or using them, but truly loving them. Of course not. Because as we kicked off the show saying girls become women just biologically, but a boy doesn't necessarily become a man. You have to be taught and trained and raised. You have to have a rite of passage into manhood. We've abandoned that. We don't do that anymore. No more rites of passage. They don't exist. I'll end with the Theodore Roosevelt, a visual of Teddy. Teddy Roosevelt lived an incredible life. One of my all-time favorite books is The River of Doubt. Read it right away. It's when he lost one of his presidential runs and he went to go explore an unexplored river in the Amazon with his son and almost died a bunch of times. Crazy story. So Theodore Roosevelt was an incredible man. But when he was young, he was a puny little guy, sick all the time. He had asthma. This was a time when he could die from asthma. He was nearsighted, weak, pathetic, and pretty slothful. And his dad said, Theodore, you have the mind, but you do not have the body. And without the help of the body, the mind cannot go as far as it should. I'm giving you the tools, but it's up to you to make your body. And Roosevelt, from that point forward, lived what he called the strenuous life. The idea of living life with vigor and conviction, not just physically, but in every way, intellectually and morally as well. We're told today that masculinity is evil, it's toxic. The opposite is true. The only way we can save America, the only way is to bring back masculinity and tell the right stories again, tell good stories. Because courage begets courage. Virtue begets courage. If the men of America become men of vigor and conviction, it's the only hope we have of saving our country. Sloth will not cut it. We will not save a country with men of sloth. We need men with purpose, vigor, and conviction. Hopefully today's special helped a little bit in that effort. Mike Slater, The First TV. Spread the word.